There's a tug of war inside all of us, a landscape of competing voices in our minds. Some murmur with fear, others with anger or longing. Some voices anchor us while others strain to break free. And if you just watch and understand, one voice might play the victim, seeking validation through sympathy. It feels overwhelmed, convinced that life is unfair, and constantly on the losing end. It says, "That's not my fault," pointing outward to blame people, circumstances, or fate. Another might be the villain, always ready for a fight. It seeks validation through control, believing respect must be demanded, not earned. It says, "They're out to get me," striking first to feel safe. Then there are quieter voices, the inner child longing for comfort, the inner guardian shielding you, the inner rebel resisting, the inner lover yearning for connection. Each has its own fears and drives, but they all look outside for validation, chasing acceptance through pity, control, avoidance, or admiration. For a long time, I chased validation by sharing my side of the story, hoping my truth would overcome rumors and misjudgments. Over time, I realized people believe what they want to believe, shaped by their own experiences and the roles I play in their lives. What truly matters isn't their approval, but understanding their shifting perspectives. Most truths speak for themselves, and some stories only begin when you stop letting others narrate them for you. I'm caught between competing currents within myself. My intuition pushes me forward even as my reason questions every move. My ego reaches for the world's promises, and while my soul calls me to a deeper purpose, my light and shadow are inseparable, revealing both strengths and fears. The only way I know how to move through this is to choose love again and again. This sometimes looks passive, like I'm letting things go or taking the easy way out. But it is a conscious choice to either amplify the energy or allow it to pass through. It is a path where I'm learning to master how I interpret and respond to the world. For years, I felt misunderstood and unseen, which made me unsure of who I was. I became my own worst critic, overanalyzing every interaction. I now see that rooting myself in fears and immaturity pulls me away from my soul's alignment, because you can't clean dirt with dirt. I learned this the hard way. The only true control you have is over your actions and responses. The people in your life are navigating their own battles, and their behavior is about them, not you. When I was little, I would cry every time my parents watched this show called America's Funniest Home Videos. I'm sure you know the one, the show where everyone laughs at clips of people falling, crashing, or getting hurt in wild accidents. Everyone around me thought I was too sensitive, too dramatic. My mom would tease me, saying that she had the money, she'd buy a camcorder just to record me crying at those hilarious videos, because that would win us the $1 million prize. We didn't have much, so the idea of something like that was always a dream floating around in the background. I learned to hide my emotions because my tears became a punchline. While others saw a show as just entertainment, I was so consumed by the pain, I missed the jokes entirely. It felt like my empathy was seen as a strange flaw. Now I realize people weren't being cruel. They simply just didn't understand. They didn't get it. For me, I was watching others get hurt and then mocked. And from that, I learned a simple lesson: to see what others overlook, to feel what they dismiss, and to never treat someone's suffering as a joke. Growing up in the 90s was no easy task. The world felt open and raw and real and messy with no filters or constant parental check-ins. We were the last generation to roam free from the hum of cell phones. The land beyond my front door was ours to explore. The only rules were to be home before sunset and never cross the bridges. Beyond that, we governed ourselves. Our world stretched from where the ocean met the land to the winding stone streets of downtown, where the freshest scent bread and coffee drifted through alleys. We moved effortlessly between these worlds, wild in the open land, respectful in the town. Even as children, we understood that freedom had an unspoken contract, because it was about knowing our place, not doing whatever we pleased. Within that space, my brother and I lived 100 different lives. Deep in the woods, we would build kingdoms from old pallets, hammering together fortresses and oak trees, trusting our limbs as we leaped from branch to branch. We explored hidden overgrown footpaths where wildflowers swayed in the wind. Our wild freedom would vanish, though, the moment our father's bell echoed through the salty air. We obeyed it as law, knowing its undeniable ring meant only one thing: it was time to come home. Even in our freedom, I carried the responsibility of looking after my younger brother. I was bossy. I was the bossy one. He was the reckless one. And together, we were the perfect storm. We bickered over everything: who got the last slice of pizza, who led our adventures, who sat in the front seat. We tested limits and filled the house with extra noise and chaos. The world was big and loud, an unpredictable storm, but within it, we were fiercely loyal to each other. The moment anything from the outside world threatened us, we became an unshakable force. We were once part of a lowrider bike club. Each bike was a reflection of who we were, a style that was part of the lowrider culture, fused with their own unique flavors. There were about a dozen of us, mostly boys, just trying to be seen on their cool bikes. We'd spend hours at the bicycle shop, tweaking, building, polishing, turning wrenches. There were only 2 girls in the club, me and a distant cousin. We simply fit in, and our gender was never a topic of discussion. She had a bike with soft purple accents, both feminine and cool, while mine was a contrast of black and pink, with engraved roses that curled along the frame like wild vines. I remember thinking I could never compare to her. She was so pretty, with an effortless glow, and her bike was so much cooler than mine. For all my insecurities, I knew one thing for sure: she had only joined the club to spend time with me. Her older brother once told me that she looked up to me and wanted to be like me. We were both just girls trying to figure out where we belonged, quietly admiring each other from opposite sides of the same mirror. Then one day, one of those boys, one of the few times our gender was even noticed, looked at my cousin and said, "You're so pretty." My face flushed instantly, not because I wanted his attention, nor did I like him, but because envy just has a way of slipping through the back door. I stayed quiet, pretending it didn't matter, denying the fact it mattered to me for some odd reason. The next time we all gathered, the same boy turned to me. "You'd be pretty," he said, pausing before adding, "if your head was smaller." The compliment I thought I wanted landed deep like a blade, clean, precise, cutting into my self-worth. I grabbed my handlebars too tightly, trying to ground myself in something I could control. Inside, I was already unraveling. I retreated into the depths of my mind. My heart pounded in my ears, the world slipping away. I've always handled pain in one of two ways: carrying it silently or exploding like a bomb. Beneath my calm surface lives a deep intensity I learned to hide, because growing up, my emotions always felt like mistakes. Too much, too loud, too out of place. So I covered my heart that I once wore on my sleeve. How could someone say something so mean, so unprovoked? It was just a comment, I told myself, but it etched itself into me. Moments like that taught me to build walls, to guard myself, fight back, seek revenge, or internalize the pain and suffer in silence. It made giving trust to others difficult, because when I do trust, it's for life. Betray it, and it's almost impossible to earn it back. It made me notice how I crave emotional truth over surface connection, though that depth can be heavy. Because some truths are painful. And the new truth I carried was this: I was almost pretty enough, but not quite. I learned to hold that pain like a sacred secret. And though I read people without trying, not everyone deserves access to my heart. Guarding my energy became survival. Though sometimes the walls grew so high, even love couldn't reach me. This insult made me feel out of place in the club I loved. I didn't want anyone to see my pain, but even then, I knew my reactions never felt like choices because they always just happened. All I wanted was to learn how to respond instead of react. And this time, something changed. The clever, biting words rose to my tongue, intent to sting back, but instead, "thank you" slipped out. I startled myself. Choosing instinctively not to fuel the conflict, I turned back to my handlebars, pretending to adjust them, pretending that my hands weren't shaking. I knew I couldn't change the size of my body or the shape of my face, so I let it go. I chose silence over reaction. But beneath that silence churned shame, disbelief, and a quiet birth of a false belief about my lack of beauty. My brother, though, he must have felt my undercurrent. And as if he had been reading my inner spiral as subtitles, something in him ignited. He stood tall, chest forward, voice sharp. "What did you say to her?" The boy repeated it. "What, man?" I said she'd be prettier if her head was smaller. The boy chuckled with a side smirk. Before I even processed what was being said, my brother shoved him so hard, he fell into a row of bikes and shouted, "Don't talk to her like that." I remember the knot of worry tightening in my stomach. Afraid my brother would get in trouble for standing up for me, for putting his hands on someone else. But instead, when we got home, Dad slapped him a high five into his palm like it was the highlight of the day. And my mom told him he'd done the right thing. Maybe she was right. But even in that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling of the double standards. How many times had my own loyalty, my own fierce need to defend myself, been met with disapproval? How many times had I been told, classy girls don't fight? In the injustice of their reaction, something clicked. My brother wasn't just protecting me. He was angry on my behalf. He was feeling something I was being taught to suppress. It wasn't just about shielding me from someone else's words. It was about showing up with the kind of rage I wasn't always allowed to express. In his reaction, I saw the space he had to be bold, to be loud, to fight, and the space I didn't. It wasn't like my brother sensed that heat rising in me. And it was like my brother sensed the heat rising in me and took the rage I couldn't express into his own hands. And for that, I was deeply grateful. His protection validated something I didn't even know I needed to feel worth defending. Growing up, our mom rejected fear-based discipline, the kind she had known, the kind that punished to control rather than to understand. She wanted to raise us free from the fear and violence. But in doing so, our home became a loud, passionate debates where emotions charged the air, and we were still learning how to define, label, and sort them. Without structure or discipline, working through them became complex. I didn't always understand her approach. I didn't want to talk about my feelings. I only felt a burning rage at the unfairness of situations. The only way I knew how to be heard was through screams, and I quickly learned to be louder than everyone. I craved instant justice and control over the chaos. The noise of her tactics overwhelmed me, fueling a loud, explosive, volatile rage. Those tactics taught my anger to move fast, to seize the moment, and to be unpredictable and all-consuming while the opportunity lasted. Anger became my armor, the only way I can shield myself when I figure out the mess inside. When my anger became too much for others to handle, she would declare, "You can start your day over at any time." It was both a demand and a challenge to take charge of my own behavior. She said often, hurt people, yet I couldn't understand how she could see my pain so clearly and still not show me how to soothe my raging heart. When it came to punishments, I quickly learned there was a right and a wrong way to react. A clear good girl or bad girl, black or white. Our parents did not leave much room for gray, at least not for me. My brother wasn't free from the rules, but there was a more flexibility in how they treated him. As if punishments lived in a grayscale while mine were painted in stark contrasts. Somehow, the same fire that made me too much made him brave. The same defiance that got me scolded earned him praise. It felt like living in a double standard. Just a girl in a world where boys were celebrated for the very behaviors I was scrutinized for. Why were some things okay for others, but not me? Despite the double standard, I couldn't help but feel her approach start to take root in me. She'd say, "The first rule you learn in kindergarten is to treat others the way you want to be treated," she said, her voice firm and full of understanding. I took this lesson to heart. believing that if I treated people well, they would do the same. So if someone was mean to me, I was meaner. If they were kind, I was kinder. I was simply amplifying or matching energy. Sometimes this practice of behavior worked out well, but often I learned the brutal truth that hurt people hurt people. What she was really teaching me is that it is our job to break the cycle. Because the truth is, no one notices your pain or sadness until it turns into anger, and by then it's too late. You've already become the problem instead of the solution. The core issue is that you are now part of the cycle because you failed to see the pain, name its true cause, and bring about the unnecessary healing. My mom tried to teach me that over and over, but I was stubborn, and life didn't make it easy to fully embrace. The internal tug of war between victim and villain continued to play out, not just in my thoughts, but in every interaction. I started to see it more clearly, how when I wanted to grow, the old patterns would creep back in. When I felt slighted, I would retreat into that victim mindset, convinced that I was being attacked, misunderstood, or overlooked. It was as if the world was always conspiring against me, and I couldn't help but feel powerless at those moments. At the same time, there was the voice of the villain, quickest to rise whenever I felt threatened or disrespected. I would lash out, defend, retaliate. I didn't even know where the attack was coming from most of the time. It could be something as simple as a misunderstood comment, but in my mind, I was always on the defense, always in a battle. I felt I had to protect myself, but I didn't know exactly from what or who. This internal conflict wasn't just a battle in my head. It shaped how I moved through the entire world and navigated my friendships. At first, the shifts in friendships were almost invisible. In elementary school, a friend would suddenly ignore me at recess, leaving me confused and searching for what I had done wrong. By middle school, the shifts became quieter but sharper. The hushed whispers that stopped when I entered the room, the glances that made my stomach twist. In high school, friendships that seemed solid one day felt distant the next, as if I'd been voted out of a club I didn't know existed. I found myself withdrawing, feeling like the victim, or pushing people away with a sharpness born from my own fears. It was exhausting. I realized the conflict was born from them, but was not born from them, but from the insecurities I carried inside. I combed through my words and actions, searching for a reason, but there was never an answer, only silence, and the silence hurt most of all. Beneath the ache was the ghost of abandonment, teaching me to mistake distance for desertion and rejection. I began to see that the only way to stop feeling constantly attacked was to stop attacking myself, trading the roles of victim and villain for a more honest, empathetic way of seeing the world and the people in it. I used to think empathy was just about being kind, listening, offering comforting words, but I came to see it has something far more powerful, a mirror and a magnet. The mirror showed me that what I noticed in others, whether inspiration or irritation, was a reflection of myself. The magnet revealed I was attracting what I carried inside. I remember being triggered by someone's neediness, only to realize it reflected my own neglected need for reassurance and connection. Still, for years, I wrestled with the truth my mother tried to teach me. Don't pay attention to what others say and do. It's about them, not you. I was wise in many ways, but I struggled to master that lesson. How could I be the common denominator in every situation and yet not be the problem? It didn't make sense until life repeated enough patterns to make it clear. People drifted in and out. Some stayed, others left without explanation. Eventually, I saw that the right people never make you question your worth. They reflect it back to you. That shift softened my energy. I learned I didn't have to take everything so personally. Silence can be stronger than noise, and patience more powerful than a knee-jerk reaction. Empathy became my guide, but only when I applied it inward first, choosing what protected my peace and remembering that not every action requires a reaction. My mom's voice still echoes, "Pick and choose your battles, Bethany." And she was right. I found peace not in control, but in understanding, the foundation of perspective. In psychology, perspective is an individual's unique lens for interpreting the world, shaped by experiences, beliefs, and culture. It influences thoughts and emotions and behaviors. Perspective taking, the ability to see through another person's lens, is essential for empathy, communication, and connection, developing over time through regions of the brain like the prefrontal cortex. While psychological perspectives offer frameworks for understanding behavior, cognitive biases can distort our views, making self-awareness and open-mindedness vital for truly understanding others. Whenever I struggle to understand other people's behavior towards me or a situation, she'd remind me to see it from their perspective by saying, we could all be standing in the same room, experiencing the same moment, and walk away with completely different stories. For her, reality wasn't just what we saw, it was how we felt it, how we read the unspoken layers beneath the world, in body language, silence, and everything left unsaid. Nothing was ever just what it seemed, secretly showing the power of empathy and the importance of emotional control, crafting the ability to remain grounded in a world that often feels like it's spinning. To understand and respect the delicate balance between our emotions and our responsibilities. The truth is, we are in charge of our perspective, and we can choose to shift it, offering others the same kindness we seek for ourselves. It's about staying steady in the chaos, knowing that no matter what misunderstandings or changes we experience, our bonds remain unbreakable when we choose empathy over judgment. Emotional resilience isn't just about being unfeeling or detached. It's navigating life with love, awareness, balance, and most importantly, empathy. So we don't take things personally, especially when we know our side of the street is clean.